So how do you know if you really value yourself and whether a man will consider you a high value woman or not? I recently did a video on qualities of a high value man, and I had some women who asked me if I'd do a video on qualities of a high value woman just to kind of sort things out there. And so this is it. This is the video. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the 7 traits of a high value woman, also known as a woman who values herself. So what are they? What are these traits that make you a high value woman? Trait number 1 we're going to be talking about is you have high standards for yourself. And so if you want to be a quality person, you need to be growth oriented. It is the most important thing that you can possibly do if you want to be a mature human being, if you want to be a quality human being, if you want other people to see you as a quality human being, you have to focus on your own personal development, your own growth, and be a growth oriented person. Doesn't mean that you have to obsess over personal growth or anything like that. You just need to have high standards for yourself and focus on building up yourself, building up your health, building up your emotions, building up your well-being, your finances, and your ability to better communicate with other people. Sometimes I get women that'll come on and they're like, oh, well, I just want to be myself, right? If I do anything different than what I'm doing right now, then it's not being me, which is just absolutely nonsense, right? You are born, and everything that you do right now is things that you learned how to do, right? There's almost nothing that you do that you were born with. I mean, there are a couple things maybe, but not much. Most of the habits that you have, most of the thoughts that you think, the language, right? You didn't even have language when you were born. That was developed and put into your mind, and you created habits of it over time, which had you thinking different thoughts. And so all of that is not innately who you are. It's all learned things. And you have to question whether it serves you or not. And if it doesn't serve you, then my suggestion is that you replace it with things that do serve you, that do give you the life that you want to live, that make you feel stronger and help you design an amazing life that you're really proud of and that you look back on and you say, man, this is absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful that I created this awesome life for myself. So if you're watching right now, say hi in the comment section and tell us where in the world you are watching this from right now. So sign number 2 is that you have high standards for your friends. So who and what you spend your time around has more of an impact on what you think, how you behave, and what you believe than just about anything else that you can possibly do out there. It really makes a huge impact, your environment. And this actually can include your entire environment as well, not just your friends, but the things that you read, the things that you look at, the television that you watch or don't watch, the internet shows that you watch or don't watch. Everything influences you and changes the way that you think and believe about yourself and the world and your perspectives and all that kind of stuff. And so it's really important that you get around people who are either growing themselves to be who you want to be or are already at levels that you're looking to get to. So for instance, if you want to get married, then it's really a valuable thing to make friends with people who are already married. If you want to be single, get around women who dislike men and relationships and dating and think that the world sucks, and you will almost certainly stay single for a very long time. The people you surround yourself with, many of their thoughts, their beliefs, their behaviors, they will be transferred to you. And so you want to make sure that you pick your friends really, really carefully if you want to have an extraordinary life, if you want to feel like you have an amazing life, if you want other people to think that you're a high quality person. It's a very, very important thing to be around high quality people, and or just kick people out and spend time reading books. And, because some people are like, oh, I can't find any high quality people anywhere. Well, get around things that nourish your mind, nourish your soul. Go and get a part of, you can be a part of virtual groups. You can be a part of in-person groups. You can read and get knowledge and wisdom that'll help you with your life and help you grow and become a better person. And those can act like your friends. Yeah, this is spoken from a true introvert here. You don't need friends, just get books. Okay, number 3 is you value yourself, your time, and your body. And this is one of the things that a lot of women who come to me don't do. They don't really value themselves a whole lot and access to themselves, and men having access, they don't value it very highly. They just give it away to whoever they feel it for or whatever is in the situation. And so if you don't value yourself, nobody else is going to be able to value you for very long. They might start out valuing you, but over time, what ends up happening is that ends up eroding most of the time, and they start feeling like you're less and less valuable because you're transferring your belief that you're not really valuable onto them. So unless you find somebody that's really like gung-ho about it and just believes in your value, 1,000,000%, which is really cool people to have around you, by the way, you're going to end up kind of transferring your beliefs over to them. It's something I call the law of belief transference. So people decide how much they're going to value you by how much you value yourself. So I had a woman the other day tell me that this wasn't true because she does value herself, but her partner still doesn't value her, right? And so I get that all the time. And I knew instantly that she didn't value herself. Why? How did I know that? How did I know that? Tell us in the chat. How did I know? Well, before you get done typing, I'm going to tell you how I know. And it's because women who value themselves don't allow men into their lives who don't value them. And so if you value yourself and a guy comes in and he's disrespectful, he treats you like trash, he doesn't value you, he takes you for granted, all that kind of stuff, you're going to quickly, if you value yourself, you're going to quickly get rid of him. You're not going to keep him in your life because your frames are going to clash, and your frame is going to be like, hey, no, I value myself. And if you want to be in my life, you have to value me too. And so he's either going to get on board with you believing in your own value, or you're going to kick him out. Those are the only options that you have if you really believe in your value. That's how you know. So this also includes being very selective about who you date, who you get intimate with, and what you do with your time. It means that you're not afraid to leave people, leave situations, or relationships where you're not being valued there. So you know how to say no without feeling guilty about it. That's how you know. That's how you know. So number 4, let's go on to number 4. You have genuine confidence. And so you know who you are, your mistakes, your successes, and your life as it is. And you are confident because confidence comes from trying. And one of the things that it comes from is trying things, failing, and then eventually becoming successful at them. And so the more things you go out there and try and do, the more you'll eventually be successful at different things, and the more confidence that you'll have within yourself. And once you've done that enough times, you'll not only be confident, you'll also be humble. And it'll be this humble confidence that comes, right? A lot of people do this thing, which is valuable as well, which you just sit there and build yourself up and build yourself up and build yourself up. But it's not like a genuine confidence that comes from yourself necessarily. You have to find that confidence within yourself. You have to build that confidence within yourself. If you just tell yourself that you're an awesome, amazing person over and over and over again, but you don't really feel it deep inside, you don't believe that that's really who you are, you'll end up becoming a classical narcissist. And then you will end up going in and out of these relationships, and everybody will hate you and complain about you on the internet because because everybody thinks everybody's a narcissist right now. Okay, so confidence comes from knowing, comes from different things. It comes from competence, right? So becoming really good at something or multiple things in your life. Confidence comes from knowing that whatever happens in any situation, that everything's going to be okay. It's faith. It comes from faith that everything's going to work out, that everything's going to be okay. And that's not only incredibly attractive, but it's also a sign of a high value woman. If you get what I'm talking about right now, say I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, go ahead and ask whatever questions you have. We're going to get to your questions here in just a little bit. And so number 5, we're talking about number 5, high quality woman. Are you one? Let's find out. So one of them is if you're feminine at your core, you're in touch with your feminine side. And so they've done research on this, actually. They've done research on almost everything in the world at this point. And what they've found is that around 80% or more of women are actually feminine at their core. And in today's society, women are being pushed to be more and more masculine. They're taking on masculine jobs. They're competing in masculine work environments and masculine cultures. People are raising them to be masculine. There's a huge push in our society to push women to be more masculine and men to be more feminine. And ultimately, a lot of women are being rewarded in our culture for being incredibly masculine. And so if you want to have less stress, and this is what I've heard from women who kind of built around them this masculine shell around them, what I've heard from them is that when they've kind of let go of that and dropped into their feminine, what they found is that they have less stress, they're happier, they're more attractive to men. And one of the best ways to do this is just to get in touch with your own, like the soft feminine side of who you are. If you want to attract and keep a healthy masculine man in a committed relationship, he's going to want a woman who encourages his masculinity and compliments him through her femininity. And so how do you do this? How do you do the feminine thing? And it's kind of different for every woman from what I hear, just like it's different for every man. I mean, there's certain patterns, right? There's different patterns that women have who've gotten in touch with their femininity. And it's usually something around being soft, right? Something around connection, something around expression. And so a lot of times women will start, just developing rituals where they just do, like, they come home from work and they just shrug off all the masculinity that they were doing at work, and they just get into their feminine side, and they dance around and listen to music or get in a bubble bath, or, I don't know, look at their shoes or whatever women do. Whatever you do, it's fine as long as it works for you. And that's really what's important. So develop your compassion, develop your ability to receive, your willingness to allow a healthy man to lead, and trust yourself and your own intuition so that you can get yourself into a healthy situation. If you really want to know about femininity, we have a coach. Her name's Helena Hart. She teaches this program. It's called Feminine Enchantment. If you want to pick up that program, you can get it for $1. It's at feminineenchantment.com. You can get it for $1 right now. So go check it out. Number 6 is you are healing, or at least you're open to healing. And so most people, just about everybody in the world, has pain from their past, right? And if you don't heal your past, a lot of times what will end up happening is you'll either hurt yourself unintentionally or you'll hurt other people. And like I said, a lot of times you don't do it on purpose, but you do it anyway because you have walls up, right? You have these walls up because you don't want to get hurt. And so you hurt other people who are trying to get close to you, or you end up getting overly attached way too quickly to guys, and you end up hurting yourself, or you'll end up pushing good men away who are growing and working on themselves because they want a partner who is growing and healing and coming from a strong a healthy place as well. And then you meet them and you have this great connection. And then he starts noticing all these things, because the more you heal yourself, the more you can start to see other people's pain, especially if you've experienced similar things as them. You're like, wow, that was me 5 years ago, back before I did all this healing work on myself and worked through kind of all the traumas and the different things that I had going on. And, you know, some people, I hear this all the time. They say that time heals, but time really doesn't heal anything. What time does is it amplifies healing. So I know women who are in their 70s, their 80s, who are still stuck. I mean, still stuck, still on pain, still just messed up really badly from things that happened in their teens and their 20s, you know. And so if you really want to heal yourself, you need to actively participate in your own rescue when it comes to healing. And healing doesn't mean that you discount things from your past. It doesn't mean that you say that it was okay or any of that kind of stuff. What it means is that you no longer allow these things to control you and have power over you and hold you prisoner to them, right? So when you're in pain and you don't heal, what you end up doing is you get triggered by things really easily. You freak out about stuff. I mean, all kinds of things happen. And really what you're doing is you're allowing your past, these things that happen in your life, to control who you are and how you live your life and how you experience your life. And if you want to have control of your life and experience life on your terms, you have to heal. You have to heal. All right, so number 7 is you have a healthy relationship to your parents. And I want to preface this by saying that some people have some unhealthy parental figures, right? I definitely have at least one, right? And if you have toxic parents, one or both, it may be healthier for you to have less of a relationship with them. So for instance, my father is a mess. I mean, he's a mess. It's really, really sad. And I don't have much of a relationship with him. And it's okay. It's okay that I don't have much of a relationship to him, because I have a healthy relationship to him. I used to have all this baggage and stuff from our past and feelings of abandonment and all kinds of things, because he left me at he put me in a psychiatric ward when I was 13 and then left me at sent me to go live with my grandma. And then, I felt like I was abandoned by him. I felt like he totally betrayed me. And so when I was in my early 20s, I ended up doing a lot of healing work around that and just calling him and forgiving him and just letting go of a whole lot of stuff. And it really helped me out a lot, and allowed us to have some kind of semblance of a relationship, because we hadn't talked for years before that. And we now have a healthy relationship, but we still don't talk very much because he's a mess. And honestly, it's just really difficult to even have a conversation with him. And so that can actually be a better way if one or more of your parents is really unhealthy and toxic or whatever. You might have to cut them out of your life and let go of this idea that they have to change and they have to do something and all that kind of stuff. And instead, just forgive, do some forgiveness work, do some healing, do some letting go, and just, realize that these people in our lives, all of these people that hurt us and all these people, whether you want to believe it or not, they all are coming from a place where they think they're doing the right thing or the best thing that they can come up with the resources that they have available to them. And it's the same with my parents. It's the same with everybody's parents. And no matter how messed up they are, it's, most of them they believe that they're doing what's right or what's best or whatever. And when you come from that space and start looking at it from that point of view, it's a lot easier to kind of let go and heal and realize that, a lot of these people are messed up, and that it's like a generational thing, right? It came down from my dad, used to be really, really mistreated by his dad. And who knows what happened with his dad and his dad and his dad. And it's just this thing that, I mean, who knows when this started? Who knows? And it's just one of those things where, you know, the best thing that you can do is grow from it and change the meaning about the event and make it about helping you grow and become a better person, and maybe helping others or living a better life or becoming stronger or whatever it is that you need to change the meaning of those events to. And because it's not about them, it's not for them, it's for you. It's about letting go of what imprisons you and creating a better life for yourself. And so, or if you have really healthy parents, having healthy relationships to them, you know. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. I hope that was helpful, though. Let's go over the 7 signs again. And one other thing that I want to mention, if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask them in the chat, and I'll get to them here in a minute. But one of the things that comes up for some women about this whole high value woman thing is they go, well, does it mean that, you know, if there's a high value woman, that there's low value women? Are you saying that women are low value, right? And yeah, maybe, you know, what's more important, though, than looking at people as low value is looking at patterns, right? Because all this stuff is just about patterns. It's not who you are as a person. You're not a low value person. I don't believe in low value people or high value people. I believe that people are either in patterns of low value or high value. And you can change those patterns anytime you want to. And really, the valuable thing here is to take on the identity of a high value woman. We have different kind of identities that we talk about in our community. One is of a goddess, another is of the forever woman, another is of a high value woman, or whatever, right? Whatever you want to take on, finding any kind of identity for yourself that empowers you, that strengthens you, that makes you look at yourself and see yourself as a valuable, worthy, worthwhile human being, and taking on that identity, because it's something that I call the law of identification. And the law of identification states that whatever you identify with, your behaviors and actions will start moving in alignment with that identity. And it'll actually cause you pain if you try to do things that are outside of that identity. And so if you look at a high value woman and you go, yeah, high value woman's growth oriented, she's awesome, she kicks butt at life, she's freaking awesome, everybody thinks she's amazing, right? And then you start doing things outside of that identity, it actually can cause you pain, and you'll try to move back towards that new identity. And so it's really important to take on these identities that you can, whatever one resonates with you, that allows you to take it on and feel strong and empowered. That's really what we're doing here. If you're not sure, you don't know about it. So, all right, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask questions in the chat. Get to the questions here. And just 1 second. See what you got. Just 1 second. From all over the world. So, okay. Luis says, hi from Canada. Love your videos. Very informative. Thank you. Well, you are absolutely welcome, Luis. Absolutely welcome. Absolutely welcome. I don't know. Finally catching alive. Yeah. Okay. Nishane says, hi, Matt. Nieta from Suriname. Love your voice and your advices. Well, thank you. Brienne says, and they don't have to say that value themselves. We just sow and be valuable. Okay. She says, I think it's valuable when you sing. Well, I'm glad you like my singing. Some people don't like it. Anonymous Facebook user says, thanks for all your advice, Matt. It's really helped me since the breakup. Well, I'm glad it's helped you. I'm glad it has helped you. Lots of people get it. Get it. Lisa said, I've been gone for a while. I had to take a dating break. You know, happens to the best of us. Happens to the best of us. Sometimes you just need a break. Lisa says, so what does feminine mean? Let the man lead. Well, that's something that is an indication that you are in your feminine, right? If a guy is leading and you're kind of following, but it's not like follow him to anywhere and whatever he does and allow him to be abusive and, be a doormat and all that kind of stuff, right? You have strong boundaries. You need to have strong boundaries and know what you want, know what you don't want, and only allow him to lead you into places that are okay, right? And so you have to initially start out trusting yourself and your own intuition. And when you're coming from a place where you trust yourself and your own intuition, it's a lot easier to allow men to lead interactions and conversations and different things, because you can trust yourself to make sure that you're not going to allow yourself to get into weird situations or do things that are not in your best interest and all that kind of stuff, which is one of the reasons why it's important to really believe in your own value. Because if you believe in your own value, then when a guy does that kind of a thing, you will be like, whoa, that's not okay. It's not okay. And you're not going to get access to me. And this is what you're thinking, and you're going to communicate this however you communicate it. But, letting him know that he's not going to get access to you if he does things that betray your trust, that betray his leading, right? That puts you into compromised situations or situations that aren't healthy for you. And so feminine means a lot of things, right? Sometimes women think that feminine means like sitting around and doing nothing, which is absolutely not what feminine means. And if you look at feminine women and the entire idea of feminine and kind of the history of femininity, you'll see that women are doing lots of things, right? Femininity is expressive, it's movement, it's, doing all this stuff. You can do lots and lots of stuff. And at the same time, there's parts of it where it's actually coming from a certain space, and which is one of the reasons why it's so difficult for people to describe what it is and explain it and all that kind of stuff. It's one of those things that you kind of need to experience. You can do things that are symptoms that, indicate that you're in your feminine, and those things can help you experience femininity and get into your femininity. But ultimately, it's really about where you're coming from. It's about coming from this kind of confident, kind of energetic place where you're kind of free. You're free and expressive, and you're not bound by anything, and you're just allowing yourself to do whatever it is. And it's kind of a complicated topic. And which is why I a lot of times refer things over to my amazing colleague, Helena Hart, and our program, Feminine Enchantment, because she's really good at helping women get into that. And, I have definitely connected with my own femininity, right? I'm a masculine guy, but you see me singing and kind of waving all over and dancing. I'm dancing sometimes. This is white man dancing 101 right here. You'll see me doing stuff that is kind of more expressions of my femininity on camera and when we're talking and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times that has to do with me being connected to my femininity as well as my masculinity. And so it's complicated. It's complicated, but I hope that helps. Suzette says, you taught me how to be in my feminine self. Well, I'm glad that I helped you do that. I'm glad that I helped you do that. Brienne says, it's true. I used to show up as Gal Capone. It feels so beautiful. Just being and feeling and allowing a man to be my protector. Oh, that's really cool. Cool to hear. Anne says, predicate is a healthy, emotional, mature guy. You don't need a guy to be in your feminine self-love, self-care. Exactly. That's true. That's right. You don't. You can be in your, it has nothing to do with a guy. It can have something to do with a guy, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with a guy. It's more of a connection with yourself and a connection with the authentic, real parts of who you are, and bringing that out and allowing that to be whatever it is that it is. Be whatever it is that it is. KD Ibtisam Kadak says, if your husband is highly insecure and wants you to take an oath every time, what should you do? Well, I'm not sure what kind of an oath he wants you to take, but there's not a whole lot you can do about an insecure guy, right? You got married to an insecure guy. That's on you, right? He's got to work through that himself, right? You can't fix his insecurities. That's not something that you can do. You can quell his insecurities, which is what he's asking for, right? When he wants you to take an oath, what he's saying is, I'm coming from a place of pain, and I want you to soothe my pain by telling me that everything's okay and that we're together, or whatever your oath is, that you're together, that you're not going anywhere, that you love him, that, you know, you're not going to leave him, that you think he's an amazing man, that, you know, he's the only guy that you want. All those kinds of things can be soothing to an insecure man. However, it's never, ever going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. You can do it from now until forever. You can do it every single day. You can do it every minute, and it'll never, ever be enough, because he has a hole inside of his soul. Maybe not his soul, but his heart. He has a hole in his heart that he's trying to fill with your oaths. And what's happening is it's going in, it's soothing things, and then it's leaving. And it keeps happening over and over and over again. And what he's got to do is plug that hole. And the only way that he can do that is through healing himself, which comes from, for most people, where it's going to come from is therapy. I'm a personal growth nerd, so I go and do seminars and stuff like that, and that's how I heal myself. But for most people, it's going to come from some kind of therapeutic work where you go and sit with a clinical therapist, and they work through different psychological issues that you've had since childhood and help you release that stuff, and you become strong in that place, and then come from that strong place. And that can take years, you know, which is one of the reasons why I like seminars so much more, because you can do things in seminars in an hour or 2 hours that in therapy would take years. So I prefer seminars, but that's me. That's me. He's got to do that work, though. He's got to want to do that work. He's got to feel like it's important. He's got to feel like it's necessary. And if he doesn't, it could end up destroying your marriage and your relationship completely. And so you can encourage him to go and do it. You can pressure him to go and do it. You can threaten him to go and do it, but he's got to go and do it. That's the only way that he's going to do it. And the only way that he's going to do it is if he looks at doing that work as being less painful than doing what it is that he's doing right now. And so that's that. That's all you can do, really. I hope that helps there, Katie. And says, so true on the pain and healing. If you don't, all they do or you do is hurt others and your weight, and sometimes terribly so. Yep. Angie says, I recently found your videos and they have been so helpful for me. I've really struggled with dating, and am learning that I have been chasing men and not allowing them to be in their masculine self. I'm working on that now because of your help. Thank you so much for doing this to help women like me. Well, you are absolutely welcome, Angie. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for trusting in me to help you in your journey to get into the relationship that you want. And I am absolutely certain that you will do a great job. It sounds like you are already on a great path. And so just keep on going there, Angie. And I think you will figure things out. Wave. Mary B says, just wondering why some men fall so quickly. How can we know that they're sincere? Well, falling really, really quickly is usually more of an infatuation thing. It happens all the time, right? I've done it. I've done it before. I'll admit it. When I was in my 20s, I did it a few times. Where I met women and I was just like, oh, you're the most amazing woman I've ever met in my life. We should go travel the world together. Just all that kind of stuff. And it's it's like this high that guys sometimes have. And if a guy like does that, you want to just slow them down and you want to build a genuine connection, because it's not love that they're feeling, right? It feels like love. They think it's love at first sight. This is kind of the love at first sight thing. And my suggestion is that you calm that down. If you're online and this happens, don't believe them at all and assume that they're a scammer. If this is in person that this is happening, assume that they have some issues that they need to work through, and probably some insecurities and some problems or whatever, or incredible naivety, because if they have any real experience, what happens, right? If you've experienced this before and you've done it a couple of times and then you feel that with somebody, what should happen is there should be a red flag that pops up in your mind that goes, wait a second, there's something weird here. Why am I so smitten in love with this woman? There must be, for me, what it was there's some kind of toxic thing going on, right? So I would like really get that whenever there was a woman that was really, really toxic. And I would just totally like fall in love, and I'd find out, and I'd sit there and I'd look at it and I'd be like, okay, so why do I think I'm so in love right now? Why am I feeling this way? And I'd be like, okay, she's doing this. She's, not contacting me back for 2 days at a time. She's, doing something really sweet and then doing something that's almost kind of cruel, like, okay, there's something toxic going on here. And that's what I'm kind of getting wrapped into. And so for me, what I do is pull myself back. But there's not a whole lot that you can do with him other than just kind of slow him down and start to reveal things about yourself and learn more about him and build a real, genuine connection with him. But a lot of times all it is kind of this biological drive that men have that pushes them forward. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that he's doing that, but it's not love, right? And what you want is to build a foundation underneath the two of you, so that you end up having that love, that real genuine connection there, instead of it being this kind of idealization thing that he creates in his mind because his biological drive kicked in and he's just totally smitten in love with you. Haley says, honestly, ever since I started watching your videos, Matthew, been really helpful, and I got to see that I've been chasing men instead of learning. And have changed, and thanks to you, love, keep it up, man. Okay, well, thanks, Haley. Thanks for being here. That was interesting. Okay, so let's see. Monica says, be aware of men that rush into relationships and love bomb you, makes you feel high. Exactly. This is literally what we were just talking about. It will be devastating to your well-being when the mask falls. Exactly. That's why you have to slow them down. You got to just pull back a bit, build a real genuine connection. Because what ends up happening is if you guys get like overly wrapped up into each other, or he does, right? And he has this idealization. At some point that starts to fall apart. And he starts going, she's not who I thought she was. And she's like doing all these weird, quirky things that I'm not sure if I really even like. And then he's like, but I've already kind of like committed myself so much to this because I was all over her. And what ends up happening is guys just pull away and disappear. Whereas if you like slow things down, you're like, okay, like let's, calm down a little bit and talk about things and build a real connection here. That doesn't end up happening as badly, because then there's this other element of actual connection that's built underneath it, as opposed to just being this mask that they're putting onto you, right? This idealization that they're putting onto you. And so they start to actually get to know the real you. And sometimes, you aren't who they thought. And so they kind of pull back or whatever and disappear or whatever. And it's not as bad, right? It's not nearly as bad because it's you didn't get wrapped up into it, right? And so you want to not get overly wrapped up into the craziness if somebody starts love bombing you. You just don't want to do that. I'm actually coming out with a thing today about how to make sure that you don't get overly wrapped up in that, how to look for signs of love bombing and kind of different things that guys do that are giant red flags and what you should do about it. So wait for that. It's coming out soon. Haley says, we really appreciate his help. Angie let us all stick together too. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Love you being here. Love you being here. And says, ladies, it's so important on patterns, so important to identify. Judy says, you are the best, so insightful and so helpful. I always get it. Well, thank you. Glad you're here. Thanks for telling me I'm the best. I love compliments. So thanks for the compliments. Sandy says, who should ask for the committed relationship, man or woman? Thanks. It doesn't matter. That's my official statement, is that it doesn't matter. It's in your best interest that he asks for it. It's in his best interest that you ask for it. And at the very least, it's in your best interest to make sure that you talk about it at some point. Because some guys can go, and I'm recording some videos right now for this new program that I'm creating. And one of the things I talk about in one of the videos is this woman that came to me, and she thought that her guy was doing all the right things, right? And they'd been together for 3 years, and she thought that they were moving towards commitment. And she was one of my clients, and I was telling her, this was before she became my client, but I was talking over a video about how sometimes guys can do all these things, right? They can do all these things. They can have pet names for you. They can, take you on vacations. They can do romantic, sweet things with you. They can have you meet their friends and family. They can do all these things in a dating situation or a relationship. And it doesn't, neither one of them, doing that stuff doesn't mean that you're moving towards a relationship. And she was shocked by this, right? And didn't believe it at first. And then it took her a couple of weeks. And then she went to her guy and she asked him about it. And she was like, because it was just like gnawing at her mind. She's like, there's no way. There's no way that I could be with a guy for 3 years. He can do all these sweet things and then not think that we're in a relationship. There's just no way, right? And so she goes and talks to him, and she finds out that, sure enough, he's like, no, I told you from the beginning that I wasn't looking for anything serious. We're just having fun, right? And she's like devastated, right? Like just totally devastated from this. Because she's like, we've been together for 3 years. What are we doing together? What are we doing? Why are you doing all that? Why are you acting like we're in a relationship? And he was like, no, we're just having fun. We're just enjoying each other's company, right? And so she came to me and she was like, like, what should I do, right? And I helped her through this, turn the situation completely around. And one of the things that you need to know is that they've done studies on this, and they found that by the 6 to 8 month mark, men know almost unanimously, right? Like almost every single man knows out there what kind of a relationship he wants with you from the 6 to 8 month mark. And if you're in a relation, if you're dating a guy for a year, if you're seeing a guy for a year, if you're seeing a guy for 2 years, and you want a committed relationship and you don't know if you're in one, you need to have a conversation with him and figure out where he's at and make it something that you actually have a real conversation about. It's very, very, very important. And so if you don't do that, you can just assume that it's possible that he thinks that you're in a relationship, but it's also possible that he doesn't. And so it's in your best interest. If you want a committed relationship, it's in your best interest I'd say before the 1 year mark, to have this conversation with him, like, hey, is this going somewhere? If you spent 8 months with a guy and he's not bringing up relationship, he's not saying that you guys are just together, he hasn't made it official, you should bring it up. Absolutely, 100%, to protect yourself. If you've committed yourself to a guy, which I suggest that you don't ever do, right? If he hasn't brought it up and he's not talking about it, I suggest you do not commit yourself to a man. If you have already done that, right? If you're like, oh, thanks, Matt, I've already committed myself, right? If you've already done that, then you should go and have a real conversation with him and figure out what's going on, right? Just do that. Just do that. Just please, Sandy, just go do that. Go do that. It's very, very important. And we've got a whole bunch of new comments here. People get it. Lots of people get it. Lots of people. Sandra says, after I broke up with my ex 11 years boyfriend, I got more secure and powerful, but I feel afraid to meet more people and hang out because I'm a single mother of 3 kids. Okay. Lovey says, I just started dating a guy and I don't want to push him away, but I also don't want to be with him if he is whoring around. So how do I know when I should end it or continue? Well, what you should do is don't get physical with him. If you've gotten physically intimate with him, my suggestion is that you stop. You stop that completely until you have an exclusivity conversation. And if you have an exclusivity conversation, then you can have that. You should also have other things, right? You should have conversations about what he's looking for, right? With somebody, you should have an exclusivity conversation. If you really want to protect yourself, you can wait until he commits himself before you get physically intimate with him. And while you're doing that, you should be dating other people. And that's my advice. We call it abundance dating. You should be dating multiple people at a time until one of them steps up and starts committing themselves to you. And you shouldn't be getting physically intimate with any of them. And if you're doing that, you don't even have to worry about the time frame, right? Because at some point he's going to be like, well, I want to get physically intimate with you. And he's going to be trying to hang out at your house or you hang out at his. And you're going to be like, hey, look, I don't get physically intimate with guys unless I'm in a relationship, or at least at the very least exclusive with them. And so if you want to do that, we have to, be exclusive at the very least, right? At the very, very, very least, or in a relationship, right? Whatever your boundary is, whatever your requirements are. And that's the very least of the things, right? And at some point, guys are going to start doing that, and they're going to be like, oh, well, I just want to do something casual. And you're going to be like, cool, well, then I guess we're not going to get physically intimate with each other, right? And you're just going to, you know what I mean? And so at some point, guys they're going to fall off because they're going to be like, sure, I just want to, right? Or they're going to step up because they're going to be like, well, she's a really amazing woman and she's awesome and we have a great connection and I really want to be with her. And so I'm going to commit to her. And that's when you cut other people off and you end up in a situation with a guy where you guys are in a committed relationship. That is the ideal. That's the way that you should do it, right? And a lot of women are kind of weird about this whole abundance dating thing. And I get it, right? I get it. However, it's amazing and you should do it. And it works great. It works great when you get over your own insecurities. And you should assume that every guy that you're dating, you should assume that this dude is whoring himself around with other women. You should just assume that. You should assume every dude is, right? Whether they are or not, which most of them probably aren't because they probably can't get it. But you should assume that they can, right? Just assume that they are. And if you come from that mindset, what would you do? And my suggestion is that you start dating multiple people and don't get physically intimate with anybody unless they, at the very least, are exclusive with you. I hope that answers your question there, lovely. Lovey. Sandy gets it. Sugar and Spice says, letting go of an emotionally unavailable man. Your videos and program has helped me a lot. Thank you, Matt. Well, you are absolutely welcome there, Sugar and Spice. Absolutely welcome. Absolutely welcome. Corey Chang says, thank you so much, Matt. Your videos are so incredibly helpful. You are absolutely welcome there, Corey. Absolutely welcome. Haley says, I was honestly starting to think that love, it is just a myth and ready to give up. But of you, Matthew, I believe in it and that it exists. Lord, now I just pray that I find, oh my God. You guys are the most amazing who've got true and genuine. All right, well, I'm sure the Lord will bring you a white man. Don't worry about it, Haley. Oh, what are we even doing anymore? All right, Elizabeth says, can being too understanding cause men to not want more or become afraid of committing? No, being too understanding, it depends on what you mean by being too understanding. If you mean like letting men walk all over you, then yes. If you mean like actually understanding who he is as a person, then no. But if you're like being a doormat and allowing him to do whatever, and you're like, no, it's okay, I totally get it. It's okay that you're sleeping with all my friends and my sister and, my dog and, the old lady across the street and that, one-legged midget man, down the road. It's okay that you're sleeping with all these people. I get it, right? If you're doing that kind of stuff, you're letting guy treat you like garbage and you're like, no, I totally understand that you just kick the dog and treat other people like garbage and you say mean things to me because you've been having a bad day and it's okay, right? You don't want to do any of that kind of stuff, right? That is coming from a low value place. If you are coming from that place, it's probably because you have some trauma that you need to heal in your life. You should go heal that trauma and start thinking of yourself as much higher value. And I'm just going to assume that that's what you're talking about here, Elizabeth, and we'll move on from there. But if being understanding as like you're understanding a guy, that's not going to stop him from wanting more. But being a doormat absolutely will, because he won't see you as highly valuable. He'll see you as disposable, and you don't want him to see you that way. Monica says, Guten Abend, Matthew aus Deutschland. L. Scar says, oops, it's sent. Should I hang in now that I've done so far? Do I cut my losses even though we have a great connection on many? I have no idea what you're talking about, El Scar, but you'd have to tell us more. Betty says, so there are no single guys here? No, this is not a matchmaking service here, Betty. No Love says, is your blood white? What are we even talking about here? What are we talking about anymore? What are we talking about? Anonymous Facebook user says, did I do the right thing by deleting a man from social media who I had dated for a month and then he breadcrumbed through IG and never followed up with any third date plans for over 5 weeks? Yeah, I mean, if you are like, hey, I don't have time. Ain't nobody, if you're like, we've been on 2 dates and it's been over 5 weeks and you haven't made another plans and I ain't got no time for that. If that's the standpoint that you're coming from, then yeah, you made the great decision there, anonymous Facebook user. And who's got time for that, right? You want a guy who's going to be consistent long-term, and waiting 5 weeks. I mean, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? My suggestion is that at the very least, just stop talking to them and just be like, hey, you know, if you want to meet up, I'm really, really busy, but if you want to meet up and hang out and, or, you know, go on a date or something, then, you know, I'll make some time in my schedule. But if you, you know, just want to be internet friends or something, you know, I'm just really, really busy or whatever right now. I don't have time. I ain't got no time for that. Ain't got no time for that. It says, question, how do I stop attracting emotionally immature and unstable men who at first seem so confident and mature? Feels like these men feed off my strength and confidence. Well, it's not that you're attracting them. It's that you're allowing them into your life. That's what's actually going on here, A. And what you need to do is flip things around, right? And if you meet a guy and you're like, oh, this man seems, you meet him and you're like, Mr. Gentleman, you seem so confident and mature. What you need to do is go, wait a second. I've been through this rodeo before, right? And just take a step back and be like, okay, let's see if there's other crazy things that are going on there. And one of my suggestions is that you have guys take you to things where they're going to be uncomfortable, right? So anything that they're going to be, you know, go dancing or something, invite them along to go dancing and be like, hey, you should come dancing. Or, hey, you know, I heard there's this thing that's dancing. You want to take me out to that, right? Or whatever you want to do, right? And just have him take you to something like that where he's going to be uncomfortable, and then watch him in stressful situations and scenarios. That's the best thing that you can do, right? A lot of people are like, they want to like avoid conflict as much as possible, but it's in conflict that conflict shows character. Remember that, write that down. Conflict shows character. And so if you go into situations where he has to deal with some kind of conflict or stress or anxiety or difficulties, like learning a new skill, right? Going dancing and he has to learn a new skill. He has to go and do something where he's not comfortable there. His character is going to come out and it's going to shine through, and you're going to find out who he is very, very quickly. And that's my suggestion on what you do to figure out what's going on with these guys in a more rapid manner. But in general, if you meet a guy and you're like, and you're used to it, right? Because you're in a pattern right now. What you're doing is you're in a pattern of experiencing these certain guys, just like what I was talking about earlier, where, you know, when my biological drive hit in and I'm like, oh, I love this girl, right? And I start coming at her, right? And I'm like, oh, she's so amazing, right? Immediately I go, wait a second, there's something wrong here, because whenever I feel this way about a woman, it's because there's something toxic going on. And so that's what you want to do, is you want to start creating awareness and recognition about what's going on with this guy, so that you can pull back and be like, okay, obviously whenever this kind of thing happens, it's usually this guy who's actually got, who's actually emotionally really immature and unstable, right? That's what's going on. That's what's going on there. Absolutely. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. So Corey Chang. Corey, I really appreciate that 150 NT, whatever that is. So thank you so much for that. And I just want to say one other thing. A lot of these issues that you guys are having here, a lot of this stuff is actually just a symptom, right, of slowing things down and calming down and pulling back and looking at things and saying, you know, maybe we should, because right now what I think, one of my opinions, one of the reasons that people are having so many problems in relationships, one of them, there's a lot of them, but one of the reasons is because people are jumping into them way too quickly, right? Women are sleeping with guys way too quickly. They're sleeping with guys on the third date, right? That's common. That's in the West, that's normal. It's normal to sleep with a guy on the third date. Guys, coaches talk about that. They're like, by the third date, women usually sleep with a guy, right? And I think that actually came from that book, The Rules. And so my suggestion is that you stop getting into relationships so quickly, stop jumping into things so quickly. When you start feeling that that attraction, that like irresistible urge, like that, oh my God, this guy's so amazing. Just take a step back and just take a breath and just relax and just become aware of what's going on and say, okay, is this what's really going on? Do some of the trauma healing work that we've been talking about, and just get into a place where you are you start valuing yourself, you start looking at yourself, and you start limiting access to you for a man to start proving to you that he really wants what you want, that he's serious about this, that he wants to build a real connection with you, that you give him, you see consistency. That's one of the main keys here, is you want consistency over time. And one of the problems with sleeping with a guy so soon is that that feeling of bonding, where you're like, you want to be really, really connected to somebody, or you feel like you're really, really connected to someone, has a lot to do with risk. And so the more that you do risky behavior, which for women, more risky behavior is sleeping with a guy, because there's a whole bunch of biological things around pregnancy and a whole bunch of other stuff there that guys don't have. And so a lot of times women feel a lot more invested and a lot more connected. Plus they have oxytocin and all these other things that make them feel more bonded. And so my suggestion is that you pull back on that and just wait longer, right? And allow there to be more consistency. Allow yourself to see what's going on with these men. Allow yourself to look for the patterns that are going on with them, so that you're not jumping into things way too quickly and getting into bad situations that end up being a really bad situation for you. And so that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your journey and helping you create the relationships that you want to have. It sounds like a lot of women in our community are having a lot of success, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to help you. Really what I do, I'm a researcher. A lot of people think I'm a coach, but really I'm a researcher. I look into patterns, what patterns work and what patterns don't work, that help women get into the relationships that they ultimately want to have. And so thank you so much for being here. I hope this was a really valuable session for you. I'll speak with you again soon. And always remember, you are worth it. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good evening. Wherever you are in the world, Guten Tag, Guten Abend, Dobry Dan, Buenas noches, whatever.